Live from the heart of America, I'm Steve Gruber, your voice in the wilderness of fake news, trying to save the sheep from themselves, which ain't easy. While fighting for you for the foxhole freedom every single day, giving you better analysis than anyone else while defending this great nation, this is the Steve Gruber Show. Good morning. And here are three big things you need to know to start the day. Number one, winter top of mind for millions of Americans today. A massive winter storm dumped snow from Texas to Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, into Florida and Georgia, too. A once-in-a-generation storm. It's remarkable. Number two, President Trump did a lot on his first full day back in the office Tuesday. One of the biggest, announcing $500 billion in private sector investment in AI called Stargate. Plus, he's targeting cancer. We'll tell you about that. And number three, it was a full day for the newly elected president, and he had a lot on his plate again. And I'm going to guarantee you right now, it's 6:07 local time in D.C. The lights are on at the White House. Why? Because Donald Trump is in the Oval Office at work. Now, yesterday, he spent time talking to reporters again, and we'll get back to that in a moment because it's important to note that Donald Trump has done more open press events over the past 2 days. I mean, just talking to everybody, taking all questions. He's done more of that over the past 2 days than Joe Biden was ever able to do over 4 years. And I'm serious about that. On Monday, he took questions at several stops, including the Oval Office. But I want to spend some time focused on the predictable meltdown from all left-wing corners. The news media, members of the House, members of the Senate. I mean, it seems odd that they're all surprised and shocked that he hit the ground running and has been delivering on the many promises he made to the American people. Why would you be surprised? He did so from the very beginning, and he's been rewarded with a bunch of lawsuits. Too many to count right now. That's what he's been rewarded with so far. I'll get back to that, too, because I want to start with the absurd. And that are the open attacks on Elon Musk. I mean, they've been going on for a while now. The left calling him President Musk and the corporate media screaming about how the oligarchs were actually inaugurated on Monday because Trump invited not only the world's richest man, but the second richest to the inauguration as well. And on Monday night, Elon Musk being very excited and a bit socially awkward from time to time, threw his right hand out to the crowd at one of the balls twice while thanking them. And, of course, predictably, PBS and others instantly screamed, "Look, Elon just gave a Nazi salute." Not once, but twice. It is among the most absurd, manufactured outrage I have seen yet. And this kind of blatant lying and smearing of good people is why so many Americans are flat out sick and tired of the antics and stunts that those on the left want to pull every single day. The Nazi card gets played more than the race card these days. And let me be clear, dear Democrats, mainstream media folks, lefties of all kinds, we're very sick of this kind of complete BS. Please, for your own reputations, please stop. Of course they can't. And just to demonstrate just how far gone they are, Democrat Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut actually took several minutes to query Elise Stefanik about this alleged Nazi salute from Elon Musk during her confirmation hearing, during Elise Stefanik's confirmation hearing to become the next ambassador to the United Nations from this country. And honestly, I'm just going to give you a small clip. It didn't go well. Here's a taste.
What do you think of Elon Musk, perhaps the president's most visible advisor, doing 2 Heil Hitler salutes last night at the president's televised rally?
No, Elon Musk did not do those salutes. I was not at the rally, but I can tell you I've been at many rallies with Elon Musk, who loves to cheer when President Trump says we need to send our U.S. space program to Mars. Elon Musk is a visionary. I'm looking forward to his work in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and look forward to looking how we can be more efficient and effective, but that is simply not the case. And to say so is the American people are smart. They see through it. They support Elon Musk. We are proud to be the country of such successful entrepreneurs. That is one of our greatest strengths as Americans.
Yeah, he went on, did Chris Murphy. It was an embarrassment, really. And then Elise Stefanik chastised him, as well she should, for wasting everyone's time on such a ridiculous and made-up issue. Here it is. Oh, controversy. No, it's fake outrage. They don't even believe this, but they don't have anything. I mean, they really are this tone deaf, and I, for one, find it stunning. Instead of reflecting on why they got hammered in the November elections, The left keeps hammering on the same things people stopped paying attention to quite a long time ago. Oh, they're racist. Oh, he's a Nazi. Please. I flew home from D.C. yesterday morning. I watched CNN and MSNBC the entire flight home. I'd switch back and forth. It was really, truly jaw-dropping. Every story I saw was an attack on Donald Trump or what he was doing. I guess over at CNN, for example, they just don't care that the ratings there have fallen through the floor. In keeping with tech media giants and social media moguls a bit longer, here is what the human bowling ball had to say. Yeah, CNN says that they need to watch the algorithms to see if it'll reduce the criticism of President Trump going forward. I mean, it is quite something. Listen.
Short answer, yes, but the consolidation of power in the hands of a few big tech CEOs didn't happen overnight, didn't just happen with Trump. It's been an issue now for years. Some people might be waking up to it now and getting more worried because Trump is getting cozy with these CEOs, or he seems to want them to bend the knee. But, you know, this is why Biden's DOJ had wrapped up Meta and Google in antitrust court battles. We will see if Trump lets those battles continue or if he tries to make them go away. You know, these concerns are real, but they're not new. What we need to watch for going forward is whether the algorithms are used in ways to downplay criticism of Trump. That would be a dramatic change, a dramatic escalation.
What we need to see going forward is if whether or not CNN or MSNBC clue into the fact that nobody's buying this crap. We're not. America rejected this. And that was just a taste of the left seriously not understanding that America, 77 million voters, maybe you included, rejected across the board all of this. Might get worse next time if they continue down this road. We don't care. We're not playing this he's a Nazi game. Oh, they're a racist, white supremacist, white nationalist. Stop it. But the left, they just don't get it. They don't, clearly. Another wild left-winger went off the rails to target Donald Trump and his agenda, but she did it from the pulpit of the National Prayer Service. You need to see this. Watch.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues.
And temples, and then she just went on. And you can see the look on Donald Trump's face. J.D. Vance. By the way, I'm going to show you who this woman truly is after the break. She should have been vetted. This should not have happened. Susie Wiles ripped somebody for this. Somebody got ripped hard for this. Maybe got fired for having that happen to the president on his first full day. I'll be back with more on this. The most dominant political figure of our time is Donald Trump, and yet somehow this woman didn't get vetted at the pulpit and sat there and basically wagged her finger at Donald Trump over apparently trans children that are thinking they're going to die today, and gay children or lesbian children or something, and foreigners that are in the country illegally are fearful that they're going to be told to leave, which they are. But none of this should have been a surprise. None of it. She's been doing this for a long time. That's right. The same radical activist bishop that chastised Donald Trump was marching in the streets for Black Lives Matter in 2020 and had a lot of nice things to say about Donald Trump. For example, this.
Why did you want to come out here and send
their message? It is a message of a call for justice, for swift justice for George Floyd, for systemic justice for all brown and black people who have been under the knee of this country in ways that we have witnessed time and again. This is wrong. And this rising up, this spontaneous uprising of people, mostly half my age or younger, they're the ones we should be listening to.
And they're angry at the president.
They're so angry.
They're angry at the president. So what is your message to President Trump today?
Well, I've given up speaking to President Trump. We need to replace President Trump. We need leadership that will lead us in the ways that this country deserves.
Thank you.
There you have it. Open assaults and Donald Trump's fall with the knee on people and so on and so forth. Like I said, I think Susie Wiles is kicking somebody's ass for that and the failure to vet who would be talking down to Donald Trump on his first full day. It was obvious the message not well received by Trump or Vance, both clearly unimpressed. Then came what may be the biggest attack line for those on the left to get started, and that is the decision to pardon 1,500 J6 rioters. This will be fuel for the anti-Trump crowd for some time to come. Yeah, how rich is this one, by the way? Adam Schiff, who was just pardoned by former President Joe Biden on his way out the door for his role in the J6 committee, burying videos and witnesses and hiding the evidence that none of it was what they claimed it was. And now Adam Schiff, the new senator from California, complaining about those he targeted getting pardons. And he complained while continuing to peddle the lies about an insurrection and President Trump being responsible for it. He continued to do this yesterday. Here it is.
I just have to start. I mean, in the last hour, Donald Trump was in the Oval Office, which I see as a choice, and just pardoned 1,500 people convicted for the attack on our Capitol. You did so much important work on the January 6th committee. You have never held back in talking about the impact of this on our country. What is going through your head right now?
It's obscene. It's a grotesque display of his new power as president to pardon these 1,500 or 1,600 people, which I have to imagine includes people that committed violent assaults on law enforcement. It certainly includes, apparently, one of the leaders of the Proud Boys. Rather fitting, sadly, that among his very first acts in office is to give a pardon to a white nationalist leader like that. So hard to imagine that we were sitting in the Capitol, the site of that attack, and hours later, the man who incited that attack pardons the people who participated in that attack. It really is a terrible way to begin, but not a surprising way to begin the new administration.
Look, fresh off his brand new pardon here, I don't think anyone that's behind Donald Trump cares much about what that little Schiff has to say. I certainly don't. But of those pardons, several were not allowed to leave in a timely fashion. Pretty strange. Lauren Boebert, among several members of Congress, had stood outside the D.C. gulag, as it's been nicknamed, waiting for J6 prisoners to be released. Here's part of what she said.
The events of that day.
Amen.
I regret that the American people weren't allowed to know how many federal agents were present in the crowd. I regret that the tens of thousands of hours of footage that was recorded at the Capitol was not released immediately to the American public. I regret the livelihoods that were lost, the time that has been spent locked up unjustly, the amount of time in court and on probation and defending defending oneself against something that they shouldn't have been had to defend.
Yeah, now on the topic of pardoning J6ers, Trump shuts down a reporter that tried to interrupt him during one of those many times he stopped to take. He takes questions from everybody, but he doesn't like being interrupted. Listen.
And we had 1,500. We have 16 under review. As you know, we commuted about 16 of them because it looks like they could have done things that were not acceptable for a full pardon. But these people have served years of jail, and their lives have been ruined. And in many cases, listen to me for a second. Stop interrupting. They've served years in jail, and if you look at the American public is tired of it. Take a look at the election.
Yeah, take a look at the election. But there are cracks in the armor of the Republican Senator Tom Tillis, not considered a hardcore Trump supporter at all. Questions about all the pardons this week. When asked, here's what he said.
Let me just get your thoughts on the pardons from President Trump regarding.
Yeah, I've got we're going through it now. Many of them probably was the right thing to do. They made a bad choice, but anybody who was convicted of assault on a police officer, I can't get there at all. I think it was a bad idea.
Are you worried that in terms of
by the way, we can't have a story about pardons without talking about the nonsense that Biden did on his way out the door.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up question is, do you think the Senate needs to look at the power of the pardon for the presidency?
I think it's a legit question because we can't get into this cycle where presidents are pardoning their friends, creating prospective pardons for charges that haven't even been applied. I don't think that that's what the founding fathers had in mind when this ability to pardon was first vested in the executive branch.
We'll see how that all plays out. We will. Meanwhile, those that are maybe most spooked by all of this are gathered in Davos today. Yeah, the World Economic Forum and all the world heavy hitters, many of them, in fact, are at Davos this week. And they are freaked out by Donald Trump. They wanted a new world order. They have it, well, they had it in their hands, they thought, and now it's been taken away from them by the American president, the most powerful political figure of our lifetimes, potentially. This is not just a flash in the pan. This is serious stuff. He's been on the scene for 10 years. He'll be here for another 4. Quite an impact. More when we come back on the Steve Gruber Show. I mentioned Davos is going on right now. In fact, my next guest, Alex Taunton, will be up in just a minute. He is there. We're going to talk about what that means and the impact of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has upset the apple cart, pretty obviously. But, these shrill attacks on Elon Musk from Murphy, and we're going to get into this whole AI thing coming up, right? $500 billion invested in Stargate, I think they're going to call this. The greatest AI investment, $500 billion, private money, not your money, private money investing in AI. This is the way things used to be done in this country. They'd build railroads, ships, steel, not with government money, but with private money and ingenuity and know-how. Much like Elon Musk has built things, and others will and do as well. We'll talk about that coming up. The great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Well, you might have. But even if you did, it's time for a refresher, right? Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they've not changed basic fundamental truth about the world we live in or our place in it. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses. That's right, more than 40 free online courses. Learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's free online courses. Personally, I'm enjoying Constitution 101. In this course, you'll explore the design and purpose of the Constitution, the challenges it faced during the Civil War, and how it has been undermined for more than a century by progressive activism and liberalism. This 12-lecture course is self-paced, so start whenever and wherever you want. Our country needs more Americans who understand the Constitution and can defend the freedom of the American people against the encroachments of an increasingly large and unaccountable government. Start your free Constitution 101 course with Hillsdale College for free today. What do? Log on. GruberforHillsdale.com. GruberforHillsdale.com. No cost. No cost. And you can self-pace, whether it's you, your friends, your kids, your grandkids. GruberforHillsdale.com. That's just one of the several courses available. GruberforHillsdale.com. GRUBER. Yeah. Check it out. When we come back, Davos. There, Alex Taunton is there. We're going to talk to him directly in just a moment here on the Steve Gruber Show. Well, with everything going on in D.C., we've not paid much attention to what's going on in Switzerland, Davos specifically. Larry Alex Taunton is an award-winning author, freelance columnist, and producer. And the World Economic Forum, of course, gathers in Davos every year. And a lot of us don't care for what they proclaim, like you will own nothing and you'll be happy. They don't want private ownership of land. They want to be able to have 15-minute cities. They want to dictate to the rest of the world how we live while they live as they please. Larry, welcome back to the program. Nice to see you again.
Hey, Steve, it is great to be with you from Switzerland.
Yeah, we were talking in the break here, and I feel like you kind of said you feel kind of dirty. You've been there since Monday. You can't wait to leave. You're on your way to Rome. Excuse me. But you can't help but feel dirty by being there. Like you want to get in a shower after you hear these people talk. I'm not wrong about that, am I?
No, I've been spending my time with a bunch of globalist scumbags. And the result of that is that, honestly, I can't wait to leave. What you were just talking about just a second ago. I mean, you just walk along, and these are all people who are flying in on their private jets, helicoptering in from the airport, driving these big gas-guzzling, luxury sedans. And I'm not joking when I say this. I watched a lot of beef being consumed, and 0 bugs.
No insects on the menu, Larry. I'm shocked to hear that.
None.
Look, this is the way this whole deal operates, though. They'll dictate on high to the whole world. From their globalist pulpit, they'll say, here's Edict 1 and Edict 2, and you'll do this, and you won't drive cars, you'll have a mule cart, and you'll eat insects and nonsense. They don't believe any of that crap, by the way, but they want to dictate to the rest of us how we live. How big of a disruption is this week to the globalists in Davos? Because here comes Donald Trump, an anti-globalist, the leader of the biggest populist movement maybe in American history or possibly world history, upsetting the apple cart in ways they didn't think was possible. And here he comes again, and he's ready to do battle with the globalists, if you will. I mean, they've got to be having a very bad week.
Steve, will you permit me a fist pump? I mean, what has been really interesting is, you know, this isn't my first time to the World Economic Forum. This is my 3rd year in a row being here, and this is the first time that I've sensed genuine panic. I mean, you would think Donald Trump had been at the World Economic Forum this week. It's almost like he has been, because you feel his presence there. But the Trump effect is real, and they know that the globalist agenda is in peril, because Trump is, just the way you put it, he's not merely not a globalist, he's an anti-globalist.
Absolutely. He's a wrecking ball to all of their nonsense. For whatever you think of Donald Trump, and I think right now 77 million Americans are breathing a sigh of relief and celebrating the fact that he's here and he's closing the border and he's changing people at the head of the Coast Guard for being woke and all these, things that are happening. He's releasing political prisoners as he sees it and giving them full pardons and sending them on their way after 4 years. For the globalists, they've got to be in anaphylactic shock right now, politically speaking, because they can't take it. And he is an anti-globalist. He's pro-American, pro-free market. He stands for everything that they're trying to tear down. It's going to be a tough 4 years for them. And if he has a good 4 years, then J.D. Vance takes the helm afterwards and continues to tear down this nonsense, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Listen, the World Economic Forum at its core is, honestly, it's fascist. And I know that those terms are thrown around. They're thrown around very casually. I mean, supposedly Elon Musk, is this fascist with the Nazi salute.
Oh,
absolutely
please.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. But what they are about is the strict regimentation of corporations for the purpose of war against domestic populations. I mean, that's who they are. They're about the suppression of free speech. They are about saving the planet. They say, the World Economic Forum, their slogan is, improving the state of the world. But they don't really care about human beings. Indeed, I would say that they're fundamentally anti-human.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What are some, and so I'm going to look at a couple of things. Donald Trump took the restrictions of water off from washing machines and shower heads and toilets. That's one of the executive orders yesterday. That takes us all the way back to Bill Clinton, who made our toilets not flush properly because they want to reduce water. And this is one of the things that these are just examples of things that would upset and enrage the globalist Green New Dealers, climate change, tree huggers, bunny lovers, all of that, right? And it's just an example of the small things that can be done that really upset them. Look, he doesn't care about Davos. He doesn't care about the World Economic Forum. He pulled us out of the World Health Organization day one. These are big signals to the world that there is a whole different deal coming. So what do? They can't stop America. If we go and we produce energy the way he says we're going to, if we close our border and stop this free flow of illegals into our country, which has been one of their cornerstones at Davos, to let the world be invaded by others, what do? They can't stop him. It's pretty obvious. They tried. For a long time, for 10 years, they've tried to stop him. And guess what? He's back.
What is very interesting about Donald Trump, and you sort of touch on it here is a guy who really did come from the ranks of the elitists. And yet he's a guy who has rubbed elbows with real human beings in the United States, chiefly, and around the world. Now, part of what I seek to do, Steve, is I'm engaging at a place like Davos with those people who float ideas that they are never actually affected by downstream. And so I go from here. You mentioned I'll be in Rome, but I'll also be in Egypt. And there I'm going to be engaging with people who are, third worlders who are deeply, deeply affected by the kind of policies that these elitists make. And you see, they all live in a bubble. They're not touched by these things.
Maybe Donald Trump is the anti-FDR. That's what you made me think here. Both came from the elitist background. FDR tried to turn us into a leftist country. Donald Trump saying, we're done with all of that. We're going the other way. And these are both people that came from very well-heeled backgrounds and went a different way. FDR brought political change in a dramatic way, and Donald Trump's doing the exact same thing, I believe. And with some luck here and some good policies, the midterms will be successful for him as well. Larry, I'm going to give you the last word here. You got about a minute. Give me your thoughts about where we go from here, from Davos, Donald Trump, globally, Egypt, Rome, the impact that he's a global phenomenon. He's not just an American president. He is a global phenomenon. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just add to that by saying that he's very popular with common people around the world. And let me just give you an example of that. When I get into a taxi in a place like Egypt or in a place like Morocco or, here, what you find is that Donald Trump is quite popular. Now, he's not popular with elitists, with the champagne swilling sorts anywhere in the world. But at Davos, it's fascinating. I found myself having lunch yesterday with a lot of the drivers, guys who are driving for heads of state and for the some 600 CEOs representing major corporations here. And what you found is that they're all kind of quietly giving the thumbs up and are very excited about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yes, they like him a lot.
Larry, here's what I like. When you get all wrapped up there, maybe you can come back next week, give us a summary of all you went through. Make sure you shower well, Larry. I don't want you to bring any of that stuff home with you. Larry, Alex Taunton, always nice to see you, my friend. Good luck for the rest of the week.
Hey, thank you, Steve. You take care.
All right. Preparing for an emergency. What are you doing to be ready in case you have like a snowpocalypse on the Gulf? We'll talk about it next. Being prepared, that's what I mean, I've talked about this for years here on the program. I've been looking with much interest, I suppose, at how the folks in Louisiana and Mississippi and all across the Gulf Coast are dealing with a foot of snow or more in some places, snow drifts on the beach. It's crazy, but it's the kind of thing that people don't expect. And if you're not prepared, well, you get caught flat-footed. Where are your meds? Where are the things you need in case of emergency? Are you ready? Peter Galuli is the CEO of the wellness company. He joins me now. Peter, good morning.
Morning, Steve.
It's this kind of natural disaster, and it is a disaster for people in Louisiana. They get a quarter of an inch of snow, it's a problem. They're getting a foot of snow in Baton Rouge, and I see they have snow plows in New Orleans in the French Quarter. I mean, it's bizarre. But people need to be prepared, and that's where the wellness company comes in with your great wellness kits, for example. You can have people prepared. If you get cut off from getting to the pharmacy, that's one of the main reasons you built this company and have these great kits available to people so you don't have to be caught without, right?
Exactly, Steve. So many of us have stocked up on food, ammo, gold, water.
Right.
Keep half a tank of gas in our car at all times, but we miss the basic things like our medications. And when you need them most, that's when you really want to make sure that you have a supply on hand. In these situations like we see on the Gulf Coast this week, 2 weeks ago with these apocalyptic fires in Southern California,
right.
That's really when you need to make sure that you have your bag packed just in case you need to get out of Dodge. And you want to make sure that you have medications in that bag because you never know. Will you have access to an urgent care? Will you have access to a hospital? Most of these services are shut down at the worst possible times in natural disasters.
Right. If you have high blood pressure or diabetes or whatever your challenge might be, medically speaking, if you don't have those medications, it can be dicey, to say the least. So that's a really important thing to consider. We're going to get back to that. But I also want to ask you about a couple of other things. The United States now no longer a member of the World Health Organization. Donald Trump carrying through on his promise to say, look, we're done with that. We're out of the World Health Organization. And he's also making other changes that we'll get to in a second. But what do you make of that? The World Health Organization, directed large part by China, but funded by America. And he says, yeah, we're done doing that. Well, how does that impact us, do you think?
Yeah, I think this impacts us incredibly positively, Steve. The World Health Organization is a giant money pit. We're literally paying the World Health Organization to orchestrate enslavement with their pandemic treaties, where they fundamentally get to decide what's misinformation and push down edicts on us from their globalist seats afar. The World Health Organization has, for a very long time, been outdated to their approaches on things like pandemics, and they're being used to push these globalist agendas. I, for one, am very thrilled that we're out of the World Health Organization. It saves the American taxpayers money, and it keeps the power back on our hands, which is really what it's all about.
I'm looking at the chart here. America pays almost $1.04, between 22 and 25% of the annual budget of the World Health Organization comes from the United States. Countries like China and India, they do not, as they say, pay their fair share. We get stuck with a bill, and like you say, they stand on high and wag their fingers at us and tell us how we're supposed to live, right?
The pandemic treaty that the World Health Organization was most recently trying to pass, Steve, literally was reallocating the use of critical medication. So if there was a pandemic, America would be one of the last countries to receive the life-saving medications it needs in favor of these third world countries, even though we're paying for it. It's completely backwards, Steve, in the way that they approach these things. And it just goes to show you where the priorities are. And it's not the USA.
It certainly does. And one other thing I want to talk about before we get out of here today. Donald Trump stepped to the podium yesterday with Larry Ellison, among others. You had OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, all there. $500 billion in private money being invested into AI to pinpoint and track down disease. AI being used to look at tests of whatever there's being tested for in disease. To me, that's a positive. Now, they were talking about vaccines, which I get a little bit skittish about. I think a lot of us do, but let's talk about the pros and the cons here. And the pro being $500 billion in private money to help us be healthier, to track down disease. I mean, I think that's a pretty positive development.
I'm all for creating more jobs in America, Steve, and AI is one of those sectors that we need to be competitive in the future, both for our national security interests, but as well as our national health interests. My point, and that I think one thing that folks like Larry Ellison just don't quite get a handle of, is that you can't AI your way to good health. You don't need an AI algorithm to tell you to do the things like exercise and eat well. Those are choices that you need to make every single day. So I get a little antsy when we talk about using AI to develop personalized mRNA cancer vaccines. Of course, we all want a cure for cancer, and Lord willing, we'll have one soon. But in the meantime, we need to be very cautious. We've seen what happens when we rush into new technology that's untested, like during the pandemic.
Right.
It tends to hurt us more than help us. And I think that Americans need to keep that in mind as we move forward.
And that's where I'm, like I say, I'm skittish about vaccines. And so many people are saying, yeah, if it involves that, I'm out. If we can help detect cancer because of AI, I think it's great. But I think you're right. It's the basics. It's the blocking and tackling. Eat well, exercise, do your strength, whatever it might be. Don't treat your body like a playground or an amusement park, and maybe you're better off. Take care of yourself and be more healthy. And that's another thing about the Wellness Company. You have subscriptions and memberships so you can have medications brought to your house. You have supplements. In fact, you have a spike protein supplement that Dr. Peter McCullough says is the best there is. If you've had the vaccine or you had COVID, this is the product to use, right?
Steve, our spike protein supplement, especially Ultimate Spike Detox, is our fastest selling product ever. We can barely keep it in stock. We are pushing orders as quickly as they come in. It's amazing how many people want to heal from the vaccine and regret getting it. And I think on behalf of Americans everywhere, we all need to heal and move on.
Absolutely. And I want you guys to go to the Wellness Company website and look at it. And by the way, we talked about this off the top. This is one of the kits that you can get that is just so readily available and handy. This is a medical emergency kit. It was the first kit they built, but there are first aid kits. There's a contagion kit. There's a kit for kids. There's a travel kit. Be prepared for anything that comes around the corner. And you can do that at twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. twc.health/Gruber. And Pete, I really appreciate all you do. Do the basics and be prepared for anything that comes around the corner. The Wellness Company is there in both regards, and I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, twc.health/Gruber, promo code Gruber, you'll save 10%. Look, I've got these kits here. When I got injured, it was the best first aid kit I've ever used. Yeah, I stubbed my toe from time to time. I'll have more after the break here on the Steve. It's a 130-year snow event, 1895, the last time they saw snow like this on the Gulf Coast. The Gulf of America seeing snow from Texas to Florida, north into Georgia. And I mean, I'm talking not just a little bit of snow. They had the plows out in New Orleans, so a lot going on. A flurry of activity in Washington, D.C. as well. The White House Office of Personnel Management has ordered that all DEI offices begin closing by the end of day today. By end of business today, all of these DEI offices in Washington, D.C. will be shutting down, sending agency-wide notices to employees informing them of the closure and asking employees if they know of any efforts to disguise these programs by using coded or imprecise language. All employees of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility offices are being placed on paid administrative leave effective immediately until they figure out what to do with these folks. But if your department doesn't exist anymore, do you have a job anymore? So by noon Thursday, there must be a complete list of DEIA offices and any employees who were in those offices as of November 5, 2024. A complete list of related agency contracts as of November 5, 2024. The agency plans to comply with the executive orders and the memorandum, they say. A written plan for executing a reduction in force action regarding the employees who work there, a list of contract descriptions, all of it. It's all happening today. If you thought that this was going to be a slow-moving administration, boy, were you wrong. Yeah, the Office of Personnel Management is shutting down all of this. And I'll get to that $500 billion private sector AI investment coming up in the next hour here on the show because it's important. But the question is, do you trust it? Larry Ellison of Oracle and these other billionaires saying that AI can track down disease. And I would think that it could. If you have AI examining your lab results, for example, more likely it's going to get it done and track down a disease and keep you in the clear. That's what I think. All right, we'll take a break. Steve Gruber, your soldier of truth, the tip of the spear against socialists here and everywhere, ready to fight for you from the foxhole of freedom and giving you better analysis than anyone else while defending this great nation. It is the Steve Gruber Show. I appreciate you being here. Here are three big things you need to know to start this hour. Number one, the weather is harsh across this country. Snow across the Gulf Coast like they haven't seen since 1895 really is quite something. Number two, that weather extends right here to my backyard where it was -7 degrees. I just went up and checked. I've got one of these great little weather stations in the yard, -7 right now. Schools closed across this state. And number three, let me give you a quick rundown. Of where we are with the president on day one, that first half a day, Monday. 42 executive orders, memoranda, and proclamations. 115 personnel actions. Over 200 executive actions. And more than an hour of questions and answers with the press. That was just half a day or less. Because he also went to inauguration balls, right? So he was out on the town as well. What a schedule. What a day. I mean, really an intense schedule and an intense day, and they were all there, and man, he got it done. All stacked up, and he had the guy sitting next to him answering all the questions. Here's what this one is, Mr. President. Here's what this one is, Mr. President. Pretty cool, really. Now, last hour I started talking about a lot of the unhinged attacks coming from the left. I didn't even mention the lawsuits over the open border getting closed, birthright citizenship getting shut down, or having a shower that actually uses water. Didn't mention that much at all. But this hour, let's talk about some of the good stuff that's happening, like energy policy that will make America the strongest in the world. And what about the future and AI? We did talk about that some. And as I said, a good portion of what you're about to hear makes me uneasy. And you too, I'm going to guess, but it's also taking a big leap forward in hopefully fighting cancer using AI. AI. A massive investment, $500 billion from private money, is coming in, according to President Trump yesterday from the White House. Here's what he said.
As you know, there's great competition for AI and other things, and they're coming in at the highest level. We're joined by Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, SoftBank CEO, my friend Masa Yoshi-san, and CEO of OpenAI, and I would say by far the leading expert based on everything I read Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming in together. That's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
$500 billion, private money. You know, that's the way this country used to get built. Railroads and steel companies, Grand Central Station, Carnegie libraries all over this nation. Built with private money. Some was philanthropy, like the libraries. Other was practical, like Grand Central Station and the railroads. Wasn't all government money. Wasn't always money taken from the taxpayers and used for these things. In fact, that never happened very often. Larry Ellison, one of the folks mentioned there, the Oracle CEO, was there talking about early cancer detection using AI. But here's the concern that people have. He was also talking about vaccines, custom vaccines for you using mRNA technology. You listen to it and you decide. Here it is.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer.
Sounds wonderful if it were true. Color me skeptical on that part. Now, do I believe an AI evaluation of blood tests and so forth can identify a threat to your health quicker than maybe a human being looking at it? Yes, I believe that's possible. Quicker evaluation at a higher level, using high-speed computers to determine what's in your blood, what's in your system. Are there fragments of disease, including cancer, that can be pinpointed and therefore highlighted and therefore circled and therefore detected? Yeah, I believe that's entirely true. It is the vaccines that make people nervous, of course. We'll keep an eye on that. Stargate, $500 billion, massive infrastructure. So we'll see where that goes. In other good news, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's time for the war in Ukraine to end. This is something that Donald Trump said he would end on day one. Well, that didn't happen, but obviously it's something he's focused on. A bit of an exaggeration. And look, he sets big goals. Donald Trump. Does he always get there? No, he didn't end the war in Ukraine on day one, but he's certainly working on it. Here is your Secretary of State. You're brand new. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Listen.
I think the promise the president made, really, if you look at it, is it's going to be the priority. It's going to be the official policy of the United States that the war in Ukraine needs to come to an end. It is a stalemate. It's a war and it's a conflict that was started by Russia. But it is now a stalemate, a protracted and bloody conflict, been incredibly destructive. I would argue for both Russia and Ukraine, but Ukraine is paying the biggest price of all. To its energy infrastructure, to the people and lives that have lost, to the millions of Ukrainians that have had to leave their countries and are living overseas. The conflict needs to end. And it's the policy of the United States that we want it to end. We want to do everything we can to help it end. We are going to engage in making it end and in a way that is sustainable, meaning we don't just want the conflict to end and then restart in 2, 3, or 4 years down the road. We want to bring stability. We have a lot of important and pressing issues around the world, and I think everyone should wake up this morning and be very happy that we have elected as our 47th president a man in Donald J. Trump that wants to promote peace in the world and bring it to the end of these conflicts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of optimism out there. Of course, the left is upset, and that's okay. That's okay. They don't know quite what to do. They're in full-blown panic is what I'm getting at, yeah. Absolutely true. My Pure Health Solutions, the way to lose weight. If you really want to, go to gruberhealth.com. If you want to lose weight, you've thought about it for a long time, it's the new year, and you're like, I want to lose weight, Steve. Well, do it. I did it 6 years ago. It worked for me. It'll work for you. I believe that it will. By the way, when you're there, you can check out X39. This is a brand new product that I think is remarkable. LifeWave X39 will stir to wake your stem cells. People having remarkable results from X39. You can find out more at gruberhealth.com. There's a button for the X39 patch and for weight loss. It's all there at Gruber Health. We're going to be expanding Gruber Health going forward in 2025, so we have more options for you to get healthy and stay that way. I'll be right back. Well, all right, it's all about energy. Donald Trump said energy policy will be front and center, and it's one of the things he's certainly working on in his first few days here. Jason Isaac is the CEO of the American Energy Institute, a former Texas representative. Jason, nice to see you back on the program.
Great to be on, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Donald Trump right there. You know, his inauguration speech really wasn't an inauguration speech. It was more like a State of the Union address, and here's what we're going to do. Bam, 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 and drill, baby, drill right there in the rotunda of the Capitol of the United States. Joe Biden and his minions tried to block energy production in America in their last few hours. It's really embarrassing, I think, to the Democrats. Why would you not want to promote American energy independence and dominance on the world stage? That's what I never understood. So is it a new golden age?
Yeah, welcome to the new golden age of America. There absolutely is. There will be things that the Congress will review under the Congressional Review Act, like offshore drilling bans, banning home heating appliances like tankless water heaters that are more efficient that the Biden administration tried to ban on the way out the door. Just the absolute absurdity, the billions of dollars in giveaways of our tax dollars that are really primarily benefiting foreign companies, namely China. We need to stop subsidizing China, and President Trump truly got to work on day one to help us get into this new golden age by unleashing American energy. The executive orders that he signed, pulling us out of the Paris climate cartel, the Paris climate accords that do nothing to mitigate a changing climate, just centralize power and make everything more expensive. They're purely focused on decarbonization. That is the climate cult's Kool-Aid. I live a high carbon lifestyle. I think the rest of the world should too. And President Donald Trump is trying to make that happen to lift everyone out of poverty.
Yeah, and it is lifting everybody out of poverty. That's the point. American energy, look, ever since I was born and ever since decades before then, America has run vast quantities of cheap energy. That's the key, cheap energy. We would not have been the arsenal of democracy for World War II to save the planet the second time without all that energy. Look, we've got it in spades. We've got natural resources, be it timber, water, farmland, oil, gas, natural gas. We've got it all. And we should not be ashamed to use it. I mean, China would be glad to, right? India would be glad to. It's time for us to step up. And here's the thing. It started on day one this time. There's no messing around. And by the time we get down the road 4 years, it's going to be ingrained, Jason. We're going to be in a pretty formidable position, aren't we?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And the only people that have been experiencing cheap energy over the last 4 years is China. They've been buying cheap oil from Iran, evading Biden, the U.S. sanctions. The Biden administration was completely ignoring. That's cut off now. They were sending $5 billion to Iran to fund war in the Middle East. China was building a coal-fired power plant to produce clean, cheap electricity, one a week, and they're exporting energy for the first time in their existence. They're exporting diesel fuel, jet fuel, home heating oil, something that I think America is about to be competing with them on the global marketplace because we produce it more responsibly than anywhere else. And our allies should be getting it from us, not from people that wish to do us harm.
Exactly. And so one of the most embarrassing things of the now, and I'm glad I can say this, former President Joe Biden, was to somehow block liquefied natural gas from us exporting it to our friends in Germany and France and wherever else. And he told Mike Johnson, I never signed that. Well, Mr. President, here it is. Of course you signed it. It's right here. We've got it. Crazy, isn't it, that he didn't even know that he had signed a block on LNG? Pretty remarkable, isn't it?
There's so many things that he signed that he probably doesn't know he signed. Someone had control of the auto pen while he was sitting on the beach in Delaware signing executive pardons, and I hope Congress investigates those, especially the billions of dollars. that one of the EPA officials said was like throwing gold off of the Titanic with our tax dollars to prop up things that don't work. The subsidies that went to Chinese companies to build manufacturing plants in the United States, and then those executives in turn give thousands of dollars to Kamala Harris's campaign. We are subsidizing with our tax dollars Democratic campaigns, and that needs to stop. We need to eliminate subsidies, and that's something that I'm proud to support. And the organizations that I represent at the American Energy Institute, we're a free market trade organization representing American energy producers that unequivocally and unabashedly support free markets and want to see an end to subsidies and a lower cost of energy because the benefits for mankind are just absolutely incredible.
Well, it is. And, you know, the other part that people just, and I don't understand how you could go through a formal education in this country or on this planet and not understand that this pen, this package, this remote control for a TV, all comes from petroleum products. I mean, how do you get through a formal education in America and not understand that if you go to have surgery, that the things in the surgical suite all come from petroleum products and the products for our cars and things that we use in our kitchen and everywhere else. Every single day, Jason, we touch, literally handle hundreds of different items that come from the petroleum industry, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's almost 100% of the products, over 96% of the products, over 96% of the products that you and I use and will have on a daily basis come from products made from hydrocarbons. And I live a high carbon lifestyle, and shouldn't the rest of the world get to experience that? And we've become not only leaders at producing energy more responsibly than anywhere else on the planet, we've become leaders in clean air. We've reduced pollution that some say in certain concentrations impact human health. We've reduced those nearly 80% over the last 5 decades. We're number one when it comes to access to clean and safe drinking water. This is something that Secretary of Energy nominee Chris Wright was talking about, that only 1 billion people on the planet get to experience this first world living that we do. There's 7 people that would love to live the high carbon lifestyle that we take for granted, being able to get water out of a tap.
And I'll leave folks with this last thought. My embedded spy at Davos this week, who was on last hour, Larry Alex Taunton. My embedded spy at Davos for the World Economic Forum this week says they're eating a lot of beef and caviar and no insects to be seen for dinner anywhere. It's the strangest thing, Jason. They sit there and they wag their finger at us. Anyhow, Jason, you come back anytime because energy, thank God, is going to be a big part of the conversation going forward with this administration. Thankfully, Donald Trump, the boss, is back. Jason Isaac, thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the golden age of America.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. How do you not realize all the things made from petroleum products? I'll take a break and be right back. Well, the wind chill where I am right now, minus 25 degrees. It's a beautiful, balmy morning here. Snowing in Jacksonville, Florida, as we speak. Snowing in Raleigh, North Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina. It's snowing. Yes, it's a beautiful morning. The snow just passed through Wilmington and Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Yeah, snow everywhere. Haven't seen anything like this since 1895 in a lot of these places. It won't be there today, of course. But New Orleans had a foot of snow, I'm told, in some areas. New Orleans, Baton Rouge, all along the Gulf Coast. Pictures all over social media. What good fun that is for the kids, right? They seem to like it a lot as the snow came. The kids did love it, by the way. And, when kids don't see snow ever, and they come outside and there's not just a little dusting, but actual snow, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches, and then maybe a foot. I mean, good Lord. Not since 1895 has a storm dumped something like this. And where is Al Gore? Is he at Davos? I was going to ask Larry that last hour, and I forgot because I want to say, hey, can you ask Al Gore about the giant snowstorm from Texas to Florida? I'm sure he would say, well, that's climate change. Was it climate change in 1895 when they got a similar big dump of snow back then? Or does weather just do its own thing sometimes, and it's fickle and does crazy things, and sometimes air masses collide that don't normally collide, and you get a colossal amount of snow or rain or hail or whatever it might be.
Don't question Mother Nature.
Oh, there you go. It's not polite to fool Mother Nature. Remember those ads on TV? And, if it tastes like butter, but it's not. It's chiffon. There you go. There you go, Brock. Anyhow. Let's see. Holding gold in the Trump era. Gold in the Trump era, a good thing to do because gold is a valuable and viable diversification tool. You can find out more at my good friends at Birch Gold. Get your free copy of their brand new information kit. Text my name, Gruber, to 989898. Find out if gold is right for you. The national debt continues to grow even under Donald Trump, so gold's still an important thing to have. Text Gruber to 989898 for your free ultimate guide to gold. All right, back to it now. My next guest has been in the crosshairs of the angry left because of her association with Donald Trump for a long time. And it must feel like exoneration today with everything that's happening. I mean, it would for me. Jenna Ellis, you know her name, of course, a former Trump attorney. She got run through the meat grinder of the legal system, facing lawfare and everything else. She joins me now. Jenna, welcome back to the program.
Great to join you, Steve. Good morning.
So I understand, before we get to that, apparently the snow tracked you down. You fled the Rocky Mountains to avoid snow, and you're getting drilled with it anyway.
Right? I know. Here in the free state of Florida, this feels like a Colorado Rocky Mountain High kind of winter, and I'm thinking, who hid the Florida sunshine? But, it's still good to be in the free state of Florida.
Well, I can't argue with that, and we spend a fair amount of Florida time every year ourselves. Let's talk about Donald Trump. I mean, this is redemption for you as well. It's not just Donald Trump. It's the greatest comeback in American history when it comes to politics, no question about it. But for those of you that flew, with him, that helped him and so forth, and you were demeaned and smeared and attacked, it's got to feel pretty good for you. It's got to be an exoneration.
I think it really is. I think it's an exoneration overall for America, for conservatism, and for truth, really. This was an utter and complete rejection and repudiation of the left, their lawfare against not just those of us who worked for Donald Trump, but also for all of the Christians and conservatives that were politically persecuted by a weaponized Department of Justice and even Democrats on the state level. I'm hopeful that Donald Trump will look at some of the pro-life advocates who are still facing consequences and jail time for violation of the ridiculous FACE Act when they were just outside of abortion clinics trying to advocate for pro-life. And so I think that with everything that we've seen over just the first 24 hours of Trump's presidency, I think there is a lot more to come.
Yeah. So one of the most absurd things that I saw yesterday, and I've seen some from the left, Chris Murphy trying to accuse Elon Musk of giving, the Nazi salute, all that nonsense. But more absurd than that even. Adam Schiff out there and pontificating about the pardons and how it's wrong for the J6 people to be pardoned. This is the guy that just took a pardon for his role in lying about those that were in jail. And he took a pardon, no questions asked, from Joe Biden on his way out the door, and has the nerve, the gall, to sit there and question those that got pardoned after spending years in jail. It is really quite something, isn't it?
The rank hypocrisy and the utter lack of self-awareness. I mean, this was literally the same day. I mean, the same day that he gets a pardon, he's then questioning the pardon of others who've actually gone through the system and who have been in many instances over-prosecuted, or the process was the punishment. And he then is questioning that as if he's sitting there with absolutely clean hands. It's absolutely disgusting. But to Elon Musk's supposed gesture and all of this, and of course the media is going to make up anything that they can against Donald Trump. This is no different than his first term. I mean, I'm just wondering if all of the gym bros now have to give up arm and shoulder day because, don't they do these kind of gestures all the time at the gym? I mean, now we're seeing Nazi salutes all across America, right? I mean, it's utterly ridiculous that the media is focusing on this, but that's what they're going to do. And this is why alternatives like your show, like American Family Radio, where I have my show, are so important to give people alternatives to the trash that is cable news.
Yeah, the thing is, I believe, and you're an attorney, I'm not. I think there was a case from 1915 in the United States Supreme Court. You don't have to take this pardon. And I can tell Liz Cheney that, and Adam Schiff that, and Kinzinger. I can tell them all. If you believe you're so innocent, don't take the pardon, right? And here's the other thing that I have questions about. How do you do blanket pardons when there's no crime accused or convicted of? I mean, there's a lot of questions about that, too.
Yeah, and so the constitutionality of preemptive pardons is really the question. Can a blanket pardon be given for a wide and far-reaching conduct? I mean, look at Anthony Fauci's pardon going all the way back to 2014. That's very fascinating. And is that constitutional? The answer to that is likely yes, just because of the pardon power that is in the Constitution in Article 2, that there really are not a lot of restrictions. The only thing the Constitution says is that there can't be pardons in cases of impeachment, obviously for federal officials that go through that process. But other than that, there's not really a lot of restraint. But that gets us to the political question of where we're at in this country when pardons aren't being used to actually enact justice. It's for political favoritism, for political opportunism, and for PR purposes. That's certainly not what the founders envisioned when they created that provision.
No.
It was supposed to be the last full measure of justice. We are so far beyond justice in this country. That's what I hope Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and others in the administration will restore to the institutions of government, is actual genuine fairness, a rule of law, and a commitment to true justice.
Yeah, and Adam Schiff, by the way, putting on ice, at least for a few days, Pam Bondi, it won't have much effect overall, but it's interesting that Adam Schiff, the bitter little man from California who has been proven time and again to be, he's the criminal element. He is the deep state. But, the entire Biden family, isn't it rich, Jenna? How they told us that Donald Trump, he's the criminal. And back, if you go back 4 years, how they were all screaming about, you can't give preemptive pardons to his family. He didn't. Joe Biden did. To his entire family, 19 minutes before Donald Trump took the oath of office. He gives his entire family pardons, plus not just the J6 committee, but their entire staff, because those are the people that do the work. Sweeping pardons, because this was a criminal enterprise for years. And they all know it. And a lot of those pardons go back, to, like you said, to January 1, 2014. No question about it.
Yeah, and I played a montage on my show yesterday of Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, Joe Biden himself, all of these Democrats that were saying when it was Trump leaving office back in 2021, saying, no, you can't do preemptive pardons, you can't pardon yourself or anyone in your administration, your family, all of these things. And of course, he didn't do that, but they were suggesting that somehow that was unconstitutional. And Joe Biden was even committing to saying, we're not going to do that in my administration. And then minutes before he leaves office, in one of his last acts as president, he does exactly what they forbade Donald Trump to do.
Correct.
If there is any reason for anyone in America to say, I'll never vote for a Democrat again, that's it.
Circle that one on your bingo card and say, there's the reason I'll never vote for these lying sons of, Jenna Ellis, greatly appreciate you being here, always. Look, it is the beginning of the golden age, and we're only to our second full day, and a lot of things are coming. Jenna Ellis, I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you for being here.
Sounds great. And yeah, look forward to the dawn of a new age in America. Go team.
Absolutely. Jenna Ellis, everybody. Redemption Day, Exoneration Day, Liberation Day, many said. And for her, too, because a lot of people that flew close to Donald Trump were smeared, denigrated, dismissed. Well, they're back, too. And we'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right. Well, Inauguration Day has come. Donald Trump, I gave you the rundown here earlier, all the executive actions and orders and everything else, several different things, and big things. A lot of it involves the border, of course. Nicholas DeMauro, CEO of Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence, LEAD. He's here with us today. Nicholas, nice to have you here.
Nick, please. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. You're a New Jersey detective, CEO of Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence. You've got that. And look, I talked to Tom Homan on Sunday, the day before the inauguration, and he said, don't you worry, we're getting started tomorrow, and asked yesterday on a couple of programs, is it going on? Is anything happening? He goes, oh, it's all happening. It's happening right now. You see the port of El Paso was the first thing to close. The CBP One app shut down middle of the day on Monday. It doesn't work anymore. If you had an appointment, it's gone. You might not see it front and center. It might not be visible to a lot of people, but it's happening, isn't it, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've been a proponent of shutting down the southern border for a long time on our radio show, Battling Drugs and Violence with the lead guy. Yeah, that's me. And we made it a point of pushing. It was becoming problematic. Last year, they seized 21 million pounds of fentanyl. But what about all the fentanyl they didn't get? That fentanyl alone could kill half the people in the world. So we have to close that loop. We have to get this thing under control.
Well, one of the big things that I think was critical was Donald Trump marking those drug cartels as terrorist organizations. That opens a box of tools you don't ordinarily have, including paramilitary tools. I mean, you could see special forces from the United States go deep into Mexico and take out drug labs and take out drug cartel leaders. I mean, that is all under the umbrella here now, isn't it?
Absolutely. I had Jim Rao on my show dealing with. He would like to see that fentanyl be issued a drug of mass destruction, and for the same reason, you can use different resources. You can call in the military, and you can do many things. It's something that was a smart move on the president's part.
Yeah, it was. And so what do you think that means going forward if you're a drug dealer, a drug cartel, if you're even a dealer here in America with fentanyl? I mean, it just changes everything, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and it should. I'm glad that this administration is focused on this issue. We work very closely with ONDCP, and obviously, our organization is on the street and in the classroom, and we're very proud of that. We have to serve our constituents, and our constituents are law enforcement agencies throughout the United States.
Right. All right. So what do you think the most important thing is here when we get to this? When you talk about, 100,000 people killed in this country from fentanyl. You got people, the Lake and Riley Act is done. It's going to be maybe the first piece of legislation Donald Trump signs because it's through the House and the Senate. But you actually had 145 members of the Democrat caucus vote against that, which is jaw-dropping to me. Is it drugs? Is it stopping violent criminals? Is it the child rapists that have come in? I mean,
it's all of the above, Steve. The big thing is we have to get all the undocumented felons out of this country, and we have to make sure that they're here legally. We have to make sure that they're paying their taxes. We have to make sure that they're working. The bottom line is they have to be good contributing Americans in this country, and I think that's the problem. When we have illegal immigrants coming in here, undocumented members of cartels and members of different factions, and they're killing our people. Did you see what happened up in Vermont yesterday?
I saw the Border Patrol agent that was killed a couple of days ago, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, I am referring to that. And again, I think you're going to see more issues there because I think you're going to see some undocumented immigrants in this country that are going to be fearful because they are killers, and they don't see an easy way out. So that's the problem we're going to have here.
Yeah. So I feel heartbroken for that man's family.
Absolutely. And what about the officer, right? All law enforcement officers work very hard. People don't realize all local law enforcement officers, the people lead serves, are here to protect us. They're the first body. They're the first aim of protection in a community. And, we could talk about the feds. We could talk about, special services and all the great stuff they do. But the patrol officers on patrol in all these communities throughout the United States on a daily basis, 24/7, are the ones that are trying to protect us. And we have to remember that at all times.
Yeah. Where do we go from here, Nick? I mean, obviously, this is going to be, you look at all these people. Several lawsuits have already been filed against the Trump administration for enforcing the border. I mean, they were ready to go. They're in place, and here they come. So they're going to try to fight this in court. I don't think they win, but they slow it down. I think the Democrat strategy here is to slow down and to gum up the works. What else do they have? Just try to slow down.
Yeah, Steve, the problem here is this shouldn't be a bipartisan issue. This is I think the biggest thing the president said in his inaugural day speeches was we have to bring common sense back to this country. And that's where we really need to focus. We need to start making decisions what's best for the safety of the communities that we serve. And when I was a patrolman 40 years ago, the bottom line is you were riding around your community trying to keep it safe, and we have to get back to the basics.
Yeah, we need to get back to the basics. That's right. Nick DeMauro, CEO, Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence. Sir, thank you for being here. I look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, anytime, Steve, and have a great day.
You too, my friend. All right. Look, he knows law enforcement was a detective in Jersey. Time to get things under control, that's for sure. The border will be number one. When we come back, we're going to... everyone.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Ichiro Suzuki, CeCe Sabathia, and Billy Wagner were elected to baseball's Hall of Fame yesterday. Ichiro fell one vote short of being a unanimous selection. They'll join Veterans Committee inductees Dave Parker and Dick Allen at the induction ceremonies in Cooperstown, New York, later this summer. 5 games in the NBA yesterday. Winners were New York, Toronto, Portland, Denver, and the Los Angeles Lakers. 8 games in the NHL last night. Winners included Montreal, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Nashville. In men's college basketball, 3rd-ranked Iowa State, 4th-ranked Alabama, and 6th-ranked Tennessee all won. And at the Australian Open down in Melbourne, American Ben Shelton advanced to the men's semifinals with a 4-set win, while Madison Keys, another American, advanced to the women's semifinals with a tight 3-set win. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. In the great state of Michigan, they want the nightmare to continue, apparently. One of the key henchmen in the Whitmer regime, Jocelyn Benson, announcing this morning she's running for governor. No surprise at all. I told you it was going to happen. So Jocelyn Benson announcing that she's running for governor in Michigan. Dana Nessel, I believe, will also join her on that quest to be the next governor of Michigan for the Democrats. They want the nightmare to continue. The question is, do you? Do you, Michigan? Andy Biggs, by the way, congressman, Republican, running for governor in Arizona. That's another big announcement. So it continues here. But Jocelyn Benson, the current Secretary of State, the one that mailed out all those mail-in ballots in 2020 that was not legal, and she did it anyway because there was no penalty. Jocelyn Benson, with the help of her friend, Dana Nessel, mailed out hundreds of thousands of ballots in Michigan. Not legal, unlawful, did it anyway because there is no penalty to do so. Anyhow, Jocelyn Benson in the race to be the next governor of Michigan to ensure everyone gets a fair shot, she says. Everyone gets a fair shot. Yeah. All right, welcome back to the big, beautiful Studio G here. Steve Gruber fighting for you from the Foxhole of Freedom, giving you better analysis and insight than anyone else with the best guests, the best understanding of the stories at top of the day every day. Here are 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, it is brutally cold out there. It was about 8 degrees below zero when I got up this morning. Schools canceled all over the state as a result because they have new rules in place. We didn't get school canceled when it was cold in my day. No, they made us walk barefoot to school. Anyhow, number 2, Donald Trump. His second full day in office, we'll be touching on that a little bit. And number 3, I want to get to this. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson announcing her launch to run for governor. So predictable. I told you a while back this was happening for sure. It was a guarantee. I felt that her and Dana Nessel were both going to run for governor. Nessel not in the race yet, but it's early, and I do expect Dana Nessel to be in this race for governor as well. Jocelyn Benson, of course, the Secretary of State, the same Secretary of State that mailed out tens of thousands of mail-in ballots, or the requests for those, I suppose, applications, not the ballots themselves, but applications for the ballots, to be accurate. Was not legal to do in 2020. She did it anyway. There was no penalty for it. I'm sure she consulted with Dana Nessel about that. There was no penalty for doing it, so she did it anyway. In an interview with the Detroit News, Benson says she wants to be known as the governor who puts transparency and efficiency at the forefront. Really? Where have we heard this before? Oh, we're going to get rid of this. FOIA requests. Michigan's governor and lawmakers are protected from FOIA more than almost any other state, if not every single one. Jocelyn Benson, 47 years old. It's going to be a crowded race for the Democratic nomination, we believe. Officially starting her bid for Michigan's top political office on the 52nd anniversary of the U.S. Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision, which I don't know if that matters or if it even timed that way, but it probably was. Everything means something, right? And they put a statement out on X, and I'm going to listen to it because, well, why not? I haven't heard it. You haven't heard it. Let's do it. A beautiful image of Jocelyn Benson hugging her family and going out for a run.
We have a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets a fair shot in life. That's what my parents taught me growing up. They were public school teachers working in special education. I'm Jocelyn Benson. I've carried that lesson every step of my life. Investigating radical extremist groups, teaching civil rights and voting rights law. I ran for Secretary of State to make sure government is efficient and transparent.
But it wasn't efficient, nor was it transparent. I mean, it's been better. It's going to the Secretary of State's office is better, but that was fixed before she got there. She sent out applications that were not legal and dodged the law because there was no penalty. Go on.
That every voice is heard and every legitimate vote is counted in every election, no matter the outcome.
What about voter ID? Do we believe in that? I mean, you give driver's licenses at the Secretary of State. You have to use them for everything you do in life except for voting. How do you feel about that?
Now, some people didn't like that very much. Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
Oh, right. Oh, and this ad, by the way, is sponsored and taken care of by Act Blue. Go figure.
Dozens of protesters, some of whom were armed.
Oh, my gosh. Look, making up the news as you go. People protested outside the Secretary of State's home. You mean like the Democrats who went to the homes of Supreme Court justices at the behest of Chuck Schumer and others? You mean like that? Yes, of course I do.
Going up to Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's
No.
Detroit home.
Oh, my gosh.
But I've never backed down from a tough fight or hard work. I grew up in a middle-class family.
Oh, here we go. I grew up in a middle-class family. She did not. She did not do the Kamala. I grew up in a middle-class family. Well done, Jocelyn. Whoever advised you on this, ma'am, bad choice.
Pay for college, waiting tables, helped pay the bills. When my husband Ryan deployed to Afghanistan, I brought together Michigan's military families to support our service members.
You did?
And each other.
I don't remember that.
I know the struggles Michigan families face to find the time and the money to get by. So while running Wayne State Law School, I lowered costs by freezing tuition and expanding scholarships.
Look, here, we're going to be subjected to this and I'm done with that, for a while now. Jocelyn Benson, sorry you lost me at the minute 20 mark. It's a 3-minute video. I'm done. I'm out. She was born and raised in a middle-class family. I can't believe she did the Kamala Harris. Raised in a middle-class family. Nicely done. Good Lord. Anyhow, let's see here. What else is going on? Oh, this is something that came up right at the end of the now former Biden administration. Isn't it fun to say that? The former President Joe Biden. Not that he ever was in charge, but the former. In her final move before being booted from her job as U.S. Secretary of Energy, former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm spent $14 billion on her own state. $14 billion. They sent it here for green energy, which means windmills and solar farms. How do you think those solar farms are doing today, covered in snow at 6 degrees below zero? I mean, I'm not an expert on solar panels, except to know that if they're covered by snow, they probably don't produce very much. That I can figure out. And there's not a breath of wind out there today. So the green energy efforts in Michigan at this moment are producing roughly zero. Roughly zero.
I wonder how many people fall off their roofs trying to get up there to clean the snow off the solar panels.
Well,
I think it's probably a real issue.
I think you're probably right. You used when you were younger, you installed solar panels, right?
Yeah, I did, and we would have to go on jobs and get on slippery, icy roofs to try to break the ice off and clean off the snow.
So let me ask you. I mean, do you have any insight if it's covered with snow and ice? Do they produce anything?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe like a little bit, but
not
if
enough
there's a
to
couple inches of snow. I don't think it's not doing anything.
Couldn't power my phone.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. Anyhow, just remarkable. Anyhow, here we are looking at this. So Well, here's the problem, though, Anthony. $14 billion they send over here, Jennifer Granholm does, of taxpayer money, basically, and that means we're going to be stuck with more windmills and more solar farms and fields and whatever, which are just garbage. I think they look horrendous.
My power bill's only gone up.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know, dude. My power bill just goes up. Exactly right. Jeff writes me here a moment ago, everyone gets a fair shot except the unborn in Jocelyn Benson's world. Boy, Jeff pulling no punches this morning. He's exactly right. Let me see. So he's also... He has solar on his house. I think it's saying 0 watts coming in. 0% of usage powered by solar. 0%. That's his house. Jeff gave me all sorts of information this morning. So right now, you're exactly right, Anthony. 0 is the number that you need to know right now. Except that for Anthony, the big number comes with a dollar sign in front of it. That's his electric bill every month. It goes up every single month. All right. By the way, the Great Lakes, 21% covered in ice this day. Well, yesterday, actually. Probably more today. It was 10 degrees below in Green Bay. It was several degrees below 0 here where I am, which means it's cold everywhere, which means ice is building and growing. I saw the map that Lake Erie mostly covered. And I bring this to your attention because I just read a headline that says that climate change is taking away 2 weeks of winter from us. I don't know if that's true. Not this year, it's not. Well, let's get an expert on the line. Ron Rademacher, everybody. He's on Michigan back roads, and sometimes he's on Michigan's back roads that lead to the middle of frozen lakes. Ron, good morning.
I have been out there. Good morning, Steve. Yeah, climate change. I was reading this morning that I got an email from Farm Market Freddie. He wants to know what the procedure is for opening up a pop-up muskox shop in Pensacola.
Yeah.
If he can get in on that, he knows there's a trend there. But climate apocalypse is a weird bunch, and they're claiming that the snow in Florida is because of global warming.
Of course it is. I knew that they would say that. That's what I've said before. Climate change, it's magical. It explains everything. It explains ice and snow and rain and mudslides and fires in California. It explains fire and ice and everything in between.
Yeah. And this one is so inane because they point out that for every 2 degrees increase of Celsius, that increases water vapor in the atmosphere by 7%. Okay, now be that as it may, I don't know, but that doesn't explain why it's cold in Florida. You can't get that, come on, guys, let's try to finish the thought.
Let me remind you that 25 years ago now, Al Gore told us there wouldn't be any snow in winter. That it would be rare and unexpected. It's rare and unexpected in Alabama and the Gulf Shores today, but there it is. In Baton Rouge, they got 8 inches. In New Orleans, they got a foot. Rare, all right.
Yeah, you have to congratulate him. One of the longest, most successful running comedy acts of any
major act. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah. I got a couple of listener shout outs. We were at the Outdoor Expo last week. A lot of ice fishermen there, a lot of trappers there. Robin from Marshall came by. Todd came by. They're both listeners. And then Jesse from Kalamazoo came by and was telling everybody, oh, yeah, you got to listen to Steve Gruber, this guy. And he picked up a copy of Oddities and Rarities. So a big thank you to those guys.
Well, I do appreciate that. I didn't realize, Ron, that when I was away for the inauguration of the nation's capital, that Tip-Up Town was underway, apparently.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of other stuff going on. Like, for instance, another announcement. It's not February 1st yet, but that's the date for the NAMA pond hockey tournament, which they have plenty of ice this year. And they were talking about including pond curling, adding a pond curling section. Now, pond curling requires specialized equipment, and I'm not saying that up in NAMA they don't have the stones for it. They do. And so they're going to. They figured out a way to. They figured out a way to use mini keg growlers, those little, beer kegs, and if they're still full, you can put some spin on it, so you don't need the stones, according to the boys in NAMA.
All right. Well, you just use frozen tall boys in aluminum. You can probably use those too, right? Yeah, just throwing it out there. You know, they got the stones for it in NAMA to be out on the ice. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they're out there.
Mm.
So what else we got going on?
A different sort, those folks out there. And look, I mean, I just looked at the map. Like I said, Lake Erie's about half frozen now. The ice fishermen from Ohio love Lake Erie when it freezes solid because they go up there and do the walleye in spades, and so they're just happier than you can believe, right?
Oh yeah, the winter fishermen. Although our guys up around Cadillac, I get reports from there. Yesterday, even the hardest core guys did not go out. It was just too cold, and it's even colder today. But that's going to thicken that ice. It's going to set that ice, and we should have a good
season.
We're not getting up much above the 20s in the foreseeable future. So good ice fishing.
You know, I would ice fish more, Ron, but I honestly can't drink that much. So.
Well, it happens with age, Steve. You know, you just don't have you can't bring it like you once did.
I don't have the staying power for ice fishing, I'll tell you that. Hey, you want another one? No, gosh. I mean, are we fishing or no, anyhow.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So, you know, they're ice fishing up around Ludington, and you might want to bring your muskox to this. They're also having their Burr Fest, where they have a heated tent. Well, I don't know how much good that's going to do in this weather. And 20 Michigan breweries are going to show up there. You got beer, you got wine, you got cider, you got mead. One of those will keep you warm enough to go out on Lake Michigan and ice fish.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, muskox extending their advertising season because of the severe cold across the country. So if you do want muskox, go muskox.com, use the promo code Gruber, and find all the specials. Thank you, Ron, for pointing that out. Carry on.
Okay. So far up, we got a couple of them to go through here. Way up in Hancock, they're having Hikey-Pava. I know that's one of your favorites. That's a midwinter festival that celebrates the halfway point of winter. And to kick things off, they have a smorgasbord dinner, dancing, and your favorite, Steve, the polar bear plunge. So they got the ice. They got the chainsaws out on the ice right now, cutting the holes.
I always say nothing says winter quite like a blaze orange Speedo, but that's just me.
Does muskox make the Speedo? Gonna have to look into that.
If they did, I'd have it on for that little adventure. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'll bet you would. So that's Hancock. Kalamazoo's having their chili cook-off. Chefs are going head-to-head. I talked about Ludington. Grand Haven, they got their Winter Fest, and they get to have one this year because we got real live winter. So they got the cardboard sled ride, and you got to make your cardboard sled. They judge it, then you race them down the hill over at Mulligan's Hollow.
All right, hold
followed
on.
by a snow angel tournament and a euchre tournament.
The euchre tournament. You know, I just taught the whole family how to play euchre. Some of our imports didn't know how to play. I'll hold that thought, though, Ron. I'll be back. We have a couple more events to cover here to make sure you're fully involved. But I'm curious, when I get back, I want you to check your thermometer to tell me the temperature where you are. It was -8 here at the home studio to start the day today. I want to see where it's going, though. We'll be right back with Ron Rademacher on the back roads of Michigan, my friends. You judge for yourself. Do not take what I'm about to say as any official record of the ice on the Great Lakes region. You must check for yourself. You're responsible for your own safety. But it looks to me, Ron, and I look at the map here, Lake St. Clair is frozen solid. The ice is frozen from Cleveland to Toledo and all the way north to south across the lake. Saginaw Bay frozen solid. Green Bay frozen solid. It's frozen around Duluth. So, look, it's cold, and it's going to be cold for a bit here. So I'm going to see how high this ice cover jumps. But there you have it. For your ice fishermen, there's my ice report. Again, check the local conditions. Don't trust me, because I'm not going out on it. I can guarantee you.
I'm not going out on that stuff either. We always, the way we always did it when we were kids, we'd send our neighbor's fat little brother out there with a rope tied to him. And if he didn't follow through, then we knew we were good. If he did follow through, we had him roped because, safety first.
Send the fat kid. That's right.
Yeah, it is 5 degrees here. We could use that word back in the day because the language was honest in its descriptions of things. And, we didn't call people tubby just for the fun of it. It was a compliment.
Yeah. They tell you to haul ass. It takes 3 trips.
Sausage, eggs, and biscuits, man. He was the champion. So it's 5 degrees where I am. They say it feels like -12. The problem we have So you want to bundle up because 5 degrees is not that bad, but the wind is so bad that you can get frostbite within a couple of minutes.
That's
so
right. So be careful out
there. We have 17-mile-an-hour winds here right now, and it's going to be gusting. So that's the trick. Don't go just by the temperature. You can get frostbite very fast, especially around the nose.
That's right. If you need to use the outside restroom, you've been warned.
Baby.
All right, you got time for one more, Ron, real quick.
All right. Well, we're going to do. Some people do not want to go outside, so let's do Grand Rapids, the Camper Travel RV Show. It's at DeVos Place, the 19th. You can stay inside, see all the new stuff they've got in campers, and some of them are great for ice fishing too. So check it out.
All right, there you go. -3. The clock on the wall says -3 here. Ron Rademacher, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. Your feature can be right here on the show, and you'll be glad you did it because all your friends will applaud you and think you're a wonderful human being. Ron, thank you, sir.
Steve, have a good one. Stay warm.
Stay warm. Muskox. Did they make an undergarment? GoMuskox.com. They're in business right now. Best flannel you'll ever own. GoMuskox.com. I'll be right back. Go back into it now. Glad you're here. -3 is what it says on the wall here. Schools closed across the state again today because of the Arctic blast. Those dastardly Canadians sending us all that cold air from up north. State Representative Ron Robinson represents Utica and the surrounding area in the Michigan House. He joins me now. Ron, nice to have you on the program.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Nice to have you. Sounds like you're in the motor vehicle. Hopefully you're traveling safely and make your way.
Yes, on my way to Lansing, yes.
Yeah, cold day to be traveling. The roads were terrible yesterday when we flew into Detroit from D.C., coming home from the inauguration. It's quite a bit of snow and cold weather, and it looks like it's going to be here for a bit. Now, let's talk about the thing that we can't seem to get past yet, this tipped wage, paid leave deal, this fiasco put through by the Democrats. Where are we on this?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. But yeah, no, we're last week we had a committee specifically for this issue. It passed out of committee with no votes, all yay votes. So it was bipartisan, and now we're going to probably be voting on it likely tomorrow, if not early next week, in the chamber.
So what happens? Does Gretchen Whitmer sign this and correct this mess she's made? I mean, we just learned today that Jocelyn Benson is running for governor. She just announced this morning. No surprise there at all. But in order to help Jocelyn Benson and all the rest, I would think that Governor Whitmer would need to correct these problems, don't you think?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was just thinking about that when you called, and I don't know if you've noticed, but Governor Whitmer appears to be moving a little bit closer to the middle. I think she has a run for presidency on her mind.
Of course she does.
I'm optimistic. Yeah, I'm optimistic that because of this change in stance that we, in fact, might be able to get this done. And it's very important. I mean, February 21st is the date where this will go into effect because of the Supreme Court ruling. So time is of the essence. So, we've done we're going to do our part this week, send it to the Senate. There's still a majority in the Democrats as far as the Senate goes, so we'll see what happens there. But I'm optimistic that we can push this through, and it needs to happen because it's going to be crushing to a lot of Michigan businesses if this doesn't go through.
Well, it's devastating. I mean, this is the same example I've used for the last couple of weeks. If you're running a ski lift, right? You're a young person running a ski lift, and you say, I'm just not going to show up for it, and your buddy doesn't show up for 2 or 3 days. You don't even have to call in. And these are some of the more egregious parts of this bill. I mean, how do you run a tourist company? You know, ski lifts, obviously, with all this winter we're having, it's a big deal. And if you don't show up for your job and you don't show up because you went drinking for 3 days or whatever your reason is, and you can't be fired? I mean, who put this together thinking this was a good idea? Because obviously they've never owned a business or been accountable even to themselves. It is completely outrageous.
Well, it makes no sense at all. It's so counterintuitive. Why would you take that kind of issue out of the business owners or the manager's hands? I mean, that to me, I agree with you. That's egregious, and I really don't know how that ended up as an option because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's beyond the pale is what it is. All right, what else is on the agenda, though, for people to get done, Ron? I mean, what else are you looking at? That's obviously a very big deal. What else do you think is on the agenda?
Well, transparency. I know transparency is an issue. There's some legislation, I think, behind the scenes going on right now being reworded, but that's an issue. But I have to tell you, one thing that I'm really excited about is because, you had me on your show when I was running is I ran on infrastructure. I want to bring infrastructure money to my community, and Speaker Hall has put out a plan that would put together a multi-billion-dollar funding to fix the darn roads. Without raising taxes, which is very exciting to me. So these are issues that we're going to be facing in the next weeks and months to come.
The former administration of the former President Joe Biden spent billions of dollars for infrastructure to put internet out there for rural areas and so forth.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it just be smarter and more cost-effective right now to just go ahead and use Starlink? Look, it works. It's in California. It's in Western North Carolina. It's in Ukraine. All the places that have, connectivity issues are solved. If that's part of the infrastructure plan for Michigan, wouldn't that make the most sense?
Well, it seems to me, but yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I really have nothing to add to that. That's a great point.
Right. Why squander billions of dollars to get nothing in return? The other thing I'd like to ask you about, $14 billion coming in from the former governor to create more solar farms, more turbines. There's not a turbine moving in Michigan right now because the air's at a dead stop. I had a listener send me a picture of his solar panel deal that he's got on his roof this morning, producing 0% of the energy for his house, 0, and yet we want to bulldoze state forests and put in more solar panels. The idiocy that goes on in Lansing, Ron, is sometimes just beyond comprehension, isn't it?
Well, it's counterproductive because if you do a little research, you know that these solar panels and these wind turbines aren't necessarily the answer. They take, it takes traditional energy to get these things up and running to begin with. So there's a lot of cutting off your nose to spite your face in a lot of these projects and issues that the liberal Democrats have pushed forward in the last several years.
Here's the point that I'm making. Jennifer Granholm directing $14 billion to DTE and Consumers Energy to create more of these boondoggles. To me, if you're going to spend $14 billion, how about I get a free electric bill for a few months? How about that? How about the real people? Honestly.
Well, it's just, it's just, to me, it's a waste of revenue. And I'm curious to see, as the weeks fold out, where that came from, because it seemed to come out of nowhere, didn't it, Steve?
Well, no, it came out of your pocket and mine and people across the country, but out of nowhere, yes. But there's always innovative ways to squander taxpayer money, and this is one of them. But my concern is that this gives them some sort of, ability, a license to go bulldoze state forests. Oh, we've got all this money from the federal government. We have to put in solar panels and solar farms. I don't want my state forest bulldozed in the name of the environmental. Come on. An environmentalist is going to take a caterpillar and start bulldozing the forest? Come on, people, let's wake up.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because I don't know if you were seeing this a couple weeks ago where the DNR was going to sell some land for solar panels. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They're west of Gaylord.
The power of the people came forward and spoke. They said no, and that was dropped rather quickly. So, coming back to your issue.
But they're not done. They want to turn 6,000 acres or more. They're not done.
Right.
Liberals are like rust, Ron. They never sleep, and you can sand it, and you can paint it, and the rust is going to eat its way back through because they never quite get it. Anyhow, I got to leave it there. Ron Robinson from Utica.
Thank you,
House
Steve.
Representative. Thank you, sir. Drive carefully. Keep warm. A lot going on the last couple of days. I'm just sitting here watching Peter McCullough, regular guest on this program, talking about Donald Trump saying, yeah, we're not part of the World Health Organization anymore. And all the people in Davos, you heard me talking earlier to Larry Alex Taunton, who's at Davos, says he feels dirty when he's there, but he's there. He's on his way to some other places. Just the flurry of activity since Donald Trump took the second oath of office to be president of the United States, it's been remarkable. Ivy and I were there for the weekend. She's here with me now. And Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
It was a remarkable weekend. They canceled the event outdoors because it was cold, and it was cold. I don't know if they had to cancel it. It's what they did. It's what they decided. It's cold here this morning, -8 this morning. But what a weekend in D.C. We had just a remarkably historic weekend with the president taking the kids to the Smithsonian, all the things we did, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It wasn't quite the inauguration that we were anticipating, but we still got to enjoy it in a historical day, and so many takeaways. Whilst our evening or our weekend started with visiting the TPUSA event.
That was
the
great,
bowl.
wasn't it?
We met some extraordinary people, Jordan Peterson being one who I just couldn't believe he was in the room, and our daughter and I were just beside ourselves. We just think he's an extraordinary man, and he was very approachable and took pictures and chatted for just a few minutes.
Sure.
And a couple other influencers that our daughter really admires.
Like Brett Cooper, yeah, she loves her.
She got to meet her.
Yeah.
And so many other, later come to find out, because there's just literally probably 1,000 or more people in this area that we were in. But some other folks that I just couldn't believe that were there. But I was incredible experience in that regard. But then also for the inauguration, being able to witness. First of all, I think everyone's talking about Jeff Bezos' girlfriend's clothing attire.
Or lack thereof.
Which I wonder if that was actually the purpose. You know, Lauren Sanchez is her name. I'm sitting there with the kids because you were out on Constitution 101 doing your broadcast covering, and we were in the Rayburn building just adjacent to
And shout
the
out to
Capitol.
Tim Wahlberg, the congressman, for
Yes.
making arrangements for you to take your tickets that were supposed to be outside,
Absolutely.
convert them to take you inside. Anyhow, go ahead.
So as we're sitting there watching, she takes her coat off. I'm like, come on, you couldn't have had a better clothing choice. Your boyfriend is a billionaire. You could have had anything you wanted. You had to go with a bra. But I know I'm thinking that's probably what she wanted. You know, we're all talking about it, and
Yeah,
so
we
that brings
still are.
attention to her and him.
But on the other side of that, you mentioned this too, here shows John Fetterman in a hoodie and shorts. Come on, dude, what is it? Junior high lunch break?
I mean, at least put some pants on.
Have some decorum, for
You
Lord's
know, if
sake.
you wanted to wear I feel like he wears the same outfit every day. Anytime you see him on TV or
Yeah.
anything else, he's wearing the same Carhartt hoodie. He seems to be wearing the same shorts. It's like, this is a historical moment. It doesn't matter who actually is being inaugurated, but I think that there does require a level of respect.
Yeah, it reminds me
And
of
then
this.
you just wear some freaking pants, put on a blouse.
Ronald Reagan would never walk into the Oval Office without a tie on.
Right.
Out of respect for the office and the people that have been there
Absolutely.
before, show up to an inauguration of the 47th president wearing a hoodie and shorts. I mean, it's look, and I don't mind Fetterman. He's kind of a free spirit, and he doesn't always side with the Democrats. But that doesn't make dressing like a slob seventh grader okay. Not to me. Have some respect. And for her, dressing like, if I may be so bold, a hooker.
Yeah.
Come on, people. Let's clean up our act, shall
Let's
we?
have some class, shall we? And I think too, but how classy was Carrie Underwood with there was some technical difficulties, and she just came out and she's like, I can just sing it.
Yeah.
And it's exactly actually what I had said to the kids. I was like, she could sing it a cappella. She could do it. Let's
she
go.
did it.
She did. And
Yes.
so she handled herself with such grace. Of course, I wouldn't expect anything less.
So I read a story. Maybe I don't think I shared this with you. I read a story about the hat, Melania's hat.
Yeah.
right?
I'm wondering what the
hat, the
symbolism
original hat,
is.
that was a backup. That was a make good. That was an emergency creation because the actual hat that was created, and everything she wore, by the way, made in America by U.S. designers. The original hat got destroyed in transit during a snowstorm.
Right. Yeah, I
And
did see
apparently
that.
there was this last minute rush to recreate the hat because she had nothing. And somehow they pulled it off, and they did it because she needed that hat for that look. And how iconic was that? I mean, compare her to Jill Biden wearing, basic curtains as a dress.
Right. Well, to me, it seemed like more like a coat. It was just like kind of a coat that she was wearing that looked like a dress. But she was always so beautiful and so
Classy.
admirable, just completely classy. And all of the Trump family is that way. But
What do you think of
she's-
Barron?
I thought it was great, when he was at the Capital One Arena and the president gave him a shout out, and he was, doing the whole hand to ear, like, I can, give me a little bit more volume, scream a little louder. And I just love that. I think he's going to be an interesting person to watch in the future. And then also, too, who else was I just thinking of? Man, I just slipped my mind. But anyhow, there's so much to just look back on and reflect on. Some incredible moments and memories, and I'm really
And what
glad
an
that
experience for
we're
the kids, really. I mean, honestly.
Oh,
And
you know something else that I wanted to reflect on is we actually were walking to the Lincoln Memorial and the People's March was going on, which, you know, and
Was
when
basically
Trump
nothing.
was first elected, there were literally tens of thousands of people there, I think, and you could not get anywhere. The streets were completely packed with people, and we maybe saw, a couple, maybe 20 people that were there for the march.
that's what I saw.
And there
I mean,
may have
apparently
been
there were more in
somewhere
some
else.
places, but not much.
Right, but nothing like it was then, and it's just interesting to see the dichotomy of those two time frames. And
Yeah, 8
people
years
just
ago,
aren't
all the
buying
pink
it
hats
anymore.
and all the nonsense, and our daughter saying she was 12 then, she's 20 now.
Right.
These people are so mean. Two very different experiences, and I just, I really enjoyed it. I loved it, and I'm glad our kids were able to experience it. And lastly, when he was sworn in, and you're in the Rayburn building, and all those people from members of Congress and so forth all stood up and cheered. You got about 10 seconds. But tell me about that moment real quick.
Incredible, tears in my eyes, something that I will cherish forever, those memories. I couldn't have speak more about the great time we had.
There you have it. Ivy, thanks. I'd say she's going to leave to go get out of the winter, but she's going to Florida where apparently it's been snowing all night in some places. I think it's passed now finally, but good Lord. We'll take a break and be back. If you're in the federal government and thought you're untouchable, well, those days are gone. Just this will be my last thought for today, and we'll talk more about it. I didn't even get to the whole 51 intelligence officers being stripped of their clearance. We're going to talk about that in depth tomorrow. Because it changes everything. The untouchables are touchable now. I look at the FBI. 20 of the top members of that organization have been moved around. Brian Driscoll named as acting director until Kash Patel is confirmed. I believe Kash probably gets through, but we'll see. And people that were, career FBI, oh, I'm untouchable. No, you've been moved. You're out. Others resigning and running because they know they can either do that or get booted. Kind of here are your options. Leave voluntarily or get crushed. And then, like I said, tomorrow we're going to talk about the 51 former intelligence agents who all said that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. They've all been stripped of their security clearances because what they would do is go on CNN or MSNBC or talk to the New York Times or Washington Post and say, oh, I've got clearance and I've got this information and I've got this special, ability to tell you the truth because I have security clearance. And they'd use that umbrella then to lie. They'd use the idea that somehow they had insider information because they had clearance, and so therefore when they say it's Russian disinformation, well, then that's what it is. If they say Donald Trump is connected to Russia, well, then, they've got it on good authority because they have clearance. Well, not anymore. You can't have special clearance and use that as an umbrella to lie to the world. John Bolton also stripped of all of that, as he should be. You can't use your clearance to create false narratives to attack the people running and doing the actual work of running the country. Second full day now of Donald Trump's presidency. What's going to happen? Who knows, my friends? Never a dull moment. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. And remember, only you can save America.